hello, and good evening, or good afternoon, or good morning, even because you may be watching this at a later time. But right now, we are live with Matilda Garrido, and
Hello.
we are talking about her brand new course, Navigating Change and Life Transitions. This is part of the professional and continuing education non-credit online portfolio of courses at the University of Vermont. And Matilda is an established instructor within our end of life doula courses and grief and bereavement. And this is one that is going to be covering all types of times within people's lives and transitions and changes. And we're really excited to talk about it today. A few things as people are still coming in. Just want to note for those of you who are here with us live today, we have disabled the chat feature, but there is a Q&A feature. So please ask your questions in that. And we have Lauren behind the scenes who we will be able to chat and answer some questions, and then she'll also allow some through to be answered live by Matilda, so that if it's a common one, everybody can answer. And then we'll also have time for questions at the end. So now let's get into the agenda. I've just discussed a little bit, but as a welcome, again, next we'll have Matilda, who will explain to you what those acronyms mean next to her name, and the many ways in which she is a subject matter expert in this course, and what has led her to this field. Will also then she will talk to you about navigating change and life transitions, what that means, what the course will look like. We'll then talk about who this course is for, prospective students. We'll go over some frequently asked questions specifically about an online course. And then we'll have time also for any questions for anyone who's listening, and we haven't gone over those questions yet. So I will hand it over to Matilda to introduce herself and tell you a little bit more about what has drawn her to this course.
Thank you. Thanks so much, Jess.
Sorry.
Some of you may have taken a class with me before, others may be brand new to me. So I would like to give you a little bit of my background so you can get a sense of why this field interests me, and actually why I'm even here teaching and working with people in transition and end of life. So for most of my adult professional career, I was a print production manager, and then I was a law school administrator for about 13 years. And then in 2016, I lost both my parents. My parents died 6 months apart in 2016. And and that was also the year that I turned 50. So I underwent a huge transition at that point. I was reevaluating my life, where I was going, what I wanted to do. And based on my parents' experience, I really decided that I wanted to work in end of life and help people have a better end of life experience, because I had had a very good experience. I was very supported through hospice, and the people that surrounded me and helped me through my parents' end of life. So I decided that I would go back to graduate school. I went back and I got two master's degrees, one in thanatology, which is really the study of end of life, grief and bereavement, end of life matters, and another degree in medical bioethics with a concentration in end of life ethics. And shortly after I completed my two degrees, I took UVM's End of Life Doula training program, which many of you have taken or may know about. And that really got me into my very hands-on work with people at end of life. and dealing with families in grief and bereavement. And then I began teaching for UVM. I developed UVM's grief and bereavement specialist course. And through all of this, I really was reflecting a lot about like sort of the shift that had happened for me and thinking about life transitions and what transitions mean. I was familiar with William Bridges' work on transitions, which many people may know. He writes predominantly from an organizational perspective, but just this idea that our identity is fluid and changes over our lifespan, not necessarily according to a schedule in the way that Eric Erickson's developmental stages may have discussed, or for people that have read Gail Sheehy's passages, she talks about certain life cycle passages, but we go through transitions constantly. And it can be very confusing and destabilizing when we don't really understand that there actually is a process to life transition. So I'm probably jumping ahead of myself, Jess. Like now I'm
Yeah, a
talking
little
about the
bit. Yeah,
course,
yeah. That's
but I
perfect
can't
though.
not because when
Yeah.
I'm talking about how I came to this field, it was through a major life transition. So,
Yes, thank you for sharing that background and leading us into exactly this course and why you developed this course.
hmm yeah. Yeah, I had been, obviously contemplating life transitions since since I turned 50 and I decided to change my professional life and my career and went back to school and everything like that. And then I think what really pushed me towards wanting to make this a real course was so my son went off to college 2 years ago. And now I'm going through another transition, which is the empty nest transition. So here I
Mm.
was again at the threshold of a transition. And, once again, feeling like, I want to figure this out. I know I've been through this so many times and really just wanting to kind of uncover more about the common experience that people share. And if we look at a lot of cultural traditions, we will see that life transitions are marked. We have quinceaneras, we have bar bat mitzvahs, we have confirmations, transitions into adulthood. Then certain cultures will have transitions when women become mothers. Then we have other transitions. Obviously, funerals are a transition ritual. So we have a lot of um, support and acknowledgement of life transitions, but we no longer have an understanding of the stages of them and that they are natural. So we used to live life seasonally before we had artificial light and before we had cell phones and everything like that. We lived according to the seasons. We knew when winter came that there would be a fallow period, but that spring would come. But now we live a very linear existence. And when we go through those fallow or quiet periods, we feel like we're on the wrong path. We feel like we may have failed, we're not doing things correctly, we're lost, etc. We've lost that perspective that there is a flow to life, um, and it can occur at any time, not just specific ages in the life cycle. So, if we develop a language and a competency around that flow, we will be able to feel less destabilized when we go through things. And for those of us that work with people in grief, or maybe there are people out there who do life coaching, end of life doulas, like we're all working with people in transition, right? People are moving away from something, they're going towards a new identity or new values, and they may not be sure how to get there, and they don't know how to navigate this period of uncertainty between the beginning, the ending and the new beginning. And so that's what this course really is seeking to do, is give us language, common experience, and just tools to work our way through this. It's really a three-step process. Um, and then when we go through another transition, which we will inevitably, we're constantly going through them, we will be able to kind of lean into it a little bit, and we'll be able to also more effectively guide people as they go through some of their transitions too.
Thank you. I'm just sitting here thinking about all different transitions and how, when you were even listing some off, how there's rituals associated with some, but
Hmm.
not, right? But then there's many rituals that, or there's many transitions that maybe are even part of life that are very common that are do not have rituals associated with. And um, this to just move on to the next slide. These are the learning objectives that a
Hmm.
student can expect to walk away with, and I was really understanding from your previous um, explanation, that final bullet about developing a personalized transitions map that supports healthy adjustment growth. So you were talking about the next time a transition or a change happens, which it surely will, to lean into
Hmm.
it and to have be better prepared. What are, if you can just kind of briefly explain some of these other objectives or that students can expect to, walk away with, or could learn if when taking the course.
Sure. So I think we're all familiar with forced transitions, like you get fired,
Mm,
or someone dies, or unfortunately you have to leave your home for whatever reason. But there's a whole other subset of self generated transitions that maybe we don't have sort of like I want to call it societal recognition for. Like when
mhm,
someone dies, people say, "Oh, I'm so sorry," right? They know. But maybe you're leaving a marriage and people are like, "I thought you guys were doing great. He's such a nice guy. Why are you leaving?" Or "Why are you leaving that job? How can you leave in this economy? It's such a great job." Like there are a whole set of transitions that we generate. And I think people maybe don't really understand how to integrate the impact of those two. There's this sense like, well, this was your choice, so shouldn't you just sort of sail on through this like it's no big deal? So we're going to look at both, voluntary and involuntary transitions
mhm,
and the different ways that we may respond and the ways that others respond, because how we are mirrored is really, really important when we're going through a transitions process, right? So we're going to want to learn how to surround ourselves with people who are going to help us move in the direction that we would like to move to. There have been a number of books written on the transitions process. William Bridges' books are the most famous, but recently we have Richard Filer has written a wonderful book. Maya Shankar has written a wonderful book. Emily Freeman, who has written a book called How to Walk into a Room. It is one of the required books in our course, and we were very, very honored to I scored an interview with her. So I was able to ask her lots of questions, very, very specific to our course. We're going to look at all of the work around transitions and the transitions process that is now sort of in the zeitgeist. And this is a conversation in the zeitgeist right now. Like, I really want to point that out. Every time I turn around, I see another podcast on transitions or a book on transitions. So people are really kind of curious about it now, and recognizing that this is something that, as a society, we need to support people through. Um, so we're going to look, we're going to work through all of those works of literature, and we're also going to really look closely at transition rituals that are culturally based. So we're going to look at like some Native American rituals. We're going to look at some processes that people go through in Asian cultures when they give birth, and we're going to really see how the transitions framework is is a part of historical cultural observation, and there is this is a garden that we can grow again for ourselves. We've again, as we've become a secular, more linear society, we've lost this kind of framework for it, but we can develop that for ourselves. So we were going to look at that, and like all of our courses, Jess, really, most of the courses in the end of life doula catalog, we do this a lot by looking at our own process. Right. So
Hmm.
if there are people here who have
Right.
taken the grief and bereavement course, we do a lot of self work, and we're going to do a lot of diving deep into our own transitions and what we've been through that we maybe didn't even realize as a transition. Maybe we thought it was just a loss and we couldn't see
Hmm.
the new beginning, but by looking back, we're going to be able to see that. And by doing that within ourselves, we'll be able to help people that we work with, whether that's professionally or even just friends and family that we want to support, and ourselves also.
And so I'm sure people are watching this or listening or going to the website and learning about it and thinking, is this course right for me? So, I mean, it sounds as if it could be right for literally anyone because we all go through transitions.
Hmm.
And one thing I was thinking about what you were just speaking about the the historical and the like Native American and it, you know, roots of transition and rituals that we may have. I have felt within, the past 6 years since, COVID, just this tremendous amount of change in my
Yes.
orbit. And it feels like that is just, we've just had to all kind of be floating and not settled down to anything ever since then. And,
Hmm.
but it's then helpful to be reminded that change, this has all been happening since the since always and forever, and it will continue. um
Hmm.
but so who, others, for career wise and jobs, what types of professionals will really benefit from taking this course?
Sure. So I would say anybody that works with people in a mental health capacity, like social workers, therapists, doctors, nurses, um, who are supporting people through emotional or physical huge life changes, having a sensitivity and an awareness of what people are going through and how to kind of guide them and sort of soften the road. So it would be applicable to anybody in those fields. I know UVM has a great health and wellness coaching program, and people who approach a wellness coach usually are coming because they want to make a big life change, right? So they really want to change their identity. They want to go from someone who maybe is, not invested in health to somebody that is invested in their health. And that involves a change in identity, and all transitions involve identity change. So, it would be applicable for health and wellness coaches and any other life coaches or wellness practitioners who are working with people who want to make changes in the way that they live their life. It would be, I would even go so far as to say it would be helpful for attorneys who are working with people who are divorcing, or people who work with, birth doulas who are working with parents above and beyond the actual giving birth and helping them into parenthood, because becoming a parent when you have not been a parent is a huge life transition. Um, and End of life doulas, obviously, people who work with those in grief, anyone who is moving from one phase of life into another that you might work with in any capacity, really, this course could support you. But you could also just take it for yourself, I think.
And there was one question about retirement specifically.
Yes.
Will that transition be addressed specifically?
Yes, that is a huge transition because again, that involves a change in identity, and once again,
Oops.
people
Okay.
sort of, um, I think, sort of downplay the impact of retirement, but retirement is huge. Retirement is huge. Moving house or neighborhood is huge. Changing jobs can be huge. Leaving a marriage is huge. Going through menopause is a huge transition. Having your kid go to college is a huge transition. Having a kid is a huge transition. Like, I mean, life is filled with these things. And if we felt more confident about our ability to go through them, I think that we would feel our own resilience a lot more powerfully.
So I've jumped to this slide, which is just talking about the details of the course.
Hmm.
There, it is 100% online. We'll talk a little bit about that next, also about what that looks like to take an online course for 4 weeks, starting April 27th. So please register by the 20th. $725 for this 4 week course. You get continuing education credits and a professional certificate. We have the website there, so that's important for anyone who would like to learn more. And then, so some frequently asked questions I'd like to ask you, Matilda, as
Hmm.
again, a experienced instructor within the professional and continuing education space. What is a typical week in the course? So can you tell us, if I'm somebody who is a working adult and I'm taking this course and I'd like to add to my skill set, what can I expect, a typical week to look like in terms of my responsibilities and how I'll be engaging?
Yeah, sure. So the way that PACE courses work now is when you enroll in a course, you are actually given all of the weeks of the course up front. But we go week by week in the course. So each module will technically begin on a Monday and end on a Sunday. And within that week, we will have discussion boards and other assignments and interactions, which will mean that you will be interacting closely with your classmates sort of on a schedule. So it's not possible to do the whole course in one week because the interaction is really key to experiencing the course. And showing up each week for the discussion boards, which go week by week, is important to build community. And again, anyone who has ever taken a course in the end of life doula catalog will know how powerful that interaction and that support is. Yes, it is asynchronous, it is online. You can do a lot of the work on your own schedule, but there are weekly deadlines.
Are there any live sessions?
Yes, there will be two live Zoom sessions, one in week 2 and one in week 4 of the course for 1 hour. And these are sort of open sessions for people to come together, meet your classmates, ask questions, go over the material. On the weeks that there are not the live sessions, I will hold office hours, which are drop in for questions, comments, anything like that.
Great. And that was the next question is how do I interact with instructors and other students? So a little bit about the office hours and then
Yes.
and how else were you saying that the students would be interacting?
Yeah, so the students will be interacting on weekly discussion boards and also in the live sessions too, which are optional. The live sessions and the office hours are totally optional. I am available by email, and also the office hours are basically drop in, bring questions, concerns, ask me questions, see if other students are there. So there are a lot of ways to be interacting and most importantly, building community, which is really important as we, learn how to process life transitions.
Mhm. How do online courses work? And
So mm, I'll answer part of that, Jess, and then maybe you can jump in too.
okay.
So again, we have discussion boards, weekly discussion boards where you'll be posting an original post reflecting on the week's material and responding to and supporting other students. There are going to be two course long assignments, which will be due at the end of the 4 weeks. You'll receive information about those in the beginning of the course. Um, and essentially, there are videos and materials to read. You'll go through the modules, you will digest the materials, and then you will reflect on them in the discussion boards, interacting with other students.
Great. And I think the one other component that I would maybe think of is like, do I need an app or anything like that? But no, we use one, online system that you would get access to when you enroll, and it's all there.
Mhm.
And then
And
what
that's great.
what does a student receive at the completion of the course?
So you will receive a certificate of completion, and the certificate. So in any sort of situation where you are receiving a certificate from a continuing education or a non-credit program, the value of your certificate is really based on the reputation of the institution and of the program itself. So UVM has a wonderful reputation. So people that are curious about your level of training and they see that you've received a professional certification, or sorry, not certification, certificate from UVM, will know that you have received a real evidence-based, very well grounded education in the subject matter.
Great. So you mentioned it's not credit, so there's no
Right.
University of Credit. It is a professional certificate.
It's a professional certificate, but you may be able to earn continuing education
Yes.
credits depending on whether you need them for social work, or other things. And we can help you figure that out. There are a certain number of hours that you will be awarded, and myself and the staff here is like ready and able to help with any documentation that you might need to provide to your licensing agency.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, there will be continuing education units associated. And there are a few questions now. We're opening it up for questions, so please do add to the Q&A if you would like. The first one was that you mentioned a three-step process in supporting others through life transitions. Can you speak a little bit more about that?
Sure. So most transitions are going to be sort of three steps, and sometimes they're not linear, right? So there's an ending, and then there's a beginning, but between those is what is variously called the liminal space, the neutral zone, or my favorite, the messy middle. And the messy
Okay.
middle is when something is ended and you don't know what's beginning. You don't know what the new beginning is going to look like. You don't know who you're going to be. So it's a very amorphous, formless time. And this is the time that is most frightening to people, but it also holds the most possibility for creativity and shaping our own new beginning. So there is that three-step process. It's an ending, a middle, and a new beginning. And we'll be talking about um, all of those. And Jess, I see the next question is, does each of the 4 weeks have an overarching theme? So I can answer that. Yes.
Mhm.
The first week is an overview of the process. The second week is talking about endings. The third week is talking about that messy middle. And the fourth week is talking about the new beginnings. So we'll dive deep into each of those areas.
I like the timing of that too. It is maybe different than somebody would think, like you said, linearly,
Hmm.
with the beginning as start is at the it starts it.
Hmm.
And I like the messy
Um,
middle. I like that. I like that
Everyone
term.
loves the messy middle.
Yeah.
Everyone loves the identification of the messy middle, because the problem is that people have an ending and then they're in the messy middle and they feel like the messy middle is the new beginning, and they're like, I can't go on like this, you know? But the whole point is you're not meant to,
Hmm.
right? That's just a space. It's like a very like, formless space, but it's formless with intention.
And the next question has to do with required books. So you mentioned one, there will
Yes.
be one required books. Can you tell a
There's
little
actually
bit more?
there's
Okay,
two required books. Yeah. So the two required books for the course are we're going to look at the book Transitions by William Bridges, but that is not the book of his that is a required book for the course. The required books are offering two perspectives on transitions. The first one is William Bridges' book, The Path of Transition. This is his own personal story about the transition that he went through when his wife died. Okay. So this is what we would call an involuntary transition. The second required book is the book How to Walk into a Room by Emily P. Freeman. This is an example of a self generated transition. And for people who don't know about her and her work, she is a spiritual counselor. And this book is all about her family's decision to leave her church due to their views on homosexuality. So this was a self-generated transition for her. So these two books give sort of two different pictures of transition. But then there are five other books that I will reference it within the course, and a list of those will be provided in the beginning.
great, thank you. And that's always an important thing to note also, or with any type of required book. Students can get the book however they'd like, right? It's
Sure.
not as if you have to buy it from a certain spot. You can, um, loan it from a local library or
Yes.
get it however, however. And then any
Listen on
other additional.
Audible.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And so I also just want to point out again the website go.uvm.edu/navigating, and that will take you to the website to learn all about the course and access any questions. If you have any questions, you could email learn@uvm.edu. There's more frequently asked questions there. This has been recorded. It will be shared with those who couldn't attend, or those of you who were able to attend. And thank you so much, Matilda. I'm
Yeah.
so
Thank you,
excited for
Jess.
this class. Thank you
Thank
for
you.
bringing this to us. And thanks again. And I hope everyone has a great night and take care.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks, everybody. Hope to see you in class.